Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Hillyard, and I'm here with Chahal and Rose Maucus, our first interview of our series of Astro Coffee, up close and personal with your favorite astrologers. Hi, Rav,
Hi.
and welcome, Rose. We're excited to talk to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to be at the top of your list here.
Yeah, yeah, you're our initial.
Your first guest.
Yeah, exactly. And so before we were recording, we were talking about, it just came up in conversation about the EA Zoom, how EA Zoom got started. And I said, well, I have a chart because Linda did a chart. So here is the EA Zoom chart. And, we, of course, we were talking about how it all tied in with, all of us. And the beginning was just a few people getting together and talking and looking at charts and talking about how the charts were affecting our charts, how the transits were affecting our charts. And so this chart, of course, I noticed that it's got a whole lot of Virgo and Neptune in Pisces was conjunct the South Node, and then Mercury in Virgo was conjunct the North Node. So the North Node ruler conjunct the North Node, the South Node ruler conjunct the South Node, which Linda thought was just fantastic, that we had all been together before and we're back, doing it all and talking about it.
And what
So,
an incredible forum it is for learning, right? All that 11th house Virgo is perfect, for the technology and for the learning and growth and for the sharing and so on. So, yeah, lovely.
yeah. So,
Also, Sue, if you look at there, you got Saturn stationary direct in Sagittarius. So you talk about kind of, the work being shared internationally, how, it connected everybody from around the world. Like Rose said, mentioned, it literally, I actually thought EA Zoom started back in like 2010. I don't know why I thought it was earlier than 2016, but I feel like it's been a part of my life like forever in terms of learning astrology, just getting deeper into the material. And yeah, that Saturn stationary direct on the day of the creation just kind of emphasizes that stationary point. Saturn karma, work, responsibility, sharing like knowledge and knowledge to do with Sagittarius, the truth of reality. And EA is definitely that type of astrology that is bringing truth into the world.
Well, I think that's really interesting with Station Direct too, that I just noticed. But that is another statement of the longevity of it as well too. I think the staying power
mm,
of this particular forum. So, and welcome to everyone out there who's just discovering the EA Zoom meetings. And for those who've been regular followers, thank you for being part of our big community, our
yeah.
ever evolving community.
Yeah, always growing. Yeah, yeah. And Rose, didn't you say that Saturn is important in your chart?
Well, that Saturn is exactly my midheaven. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And my Pluto is 22 degrees Leo, and that sun is sitting up there at 21. So I think I have some kind of connection to this chart
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
and you've definitely done a lot of recordings for us and a lot of groups and we've all definitely learned from you. So it's
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
shall we, well, okay, I did put the transits. I don't know if there's anything yeah, there was a couple of things. The sun is right at the top of the chart today. So good,
Mhm.
good, good for
The
shining,
spotlight.
as Rob said, shining a light on what we do. Um,
Awesome.
And then there's the moon in the first house too. So right on my Mars.
Mine in Scorpio.
Yeah.
And we've got that new phase Mars Uranus, which has been very eventful over the past couple of days there, right?
Yeah, it has. And I'm sure it will continue to reverberate.
For a little while to come. I would exactly say that as well too.
Yeah, well,
And for those, this might be listened to much later, but of course, on the 13th of July, we're recording this on the 15th of July. On the 13th of July was the assassination attempt, Trump's assassination attempt and today is the Republican convention happening as well too, at the start of that. So lots going on politically. And of course, there is an awful lot going on the planet regarding weather conditions as well too, right?
Yes, lots of fires,
Yeah.
lightning created fires.
Yeah, weather extremes of all kinds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, shall we move on to talk about Rose? So Rose kindly agreed to let us talk about her chart. And so I guess we could start with the first question of, what drew you to astrology? And then I guess, in addition to that, how does that show in your chart?
Well, and I think that I rarely put up my own charts, so this is interesting for me. And, how was I drawn to astrology? Well, I have to say, that astrology has been with me always. I can't remember a time when it was not with me. So from the very earliest age, I am an Aquarius rising. I've had an unusual life, but astrology has been with me from the very beginning. And I will tell you that when I was a child, I used to sit at my desk. I had a desk in my bedroom, and I would draw. And what I thought I was drawing at that point was hieroglyphic symbols. But later on, I realized that it was probably astrology, right? But I was
Wow.
always scribbling like that. I did a lecture in Edmonton, actually, at one time, a workshop and so on. I was invited to speak there. And I ran into an old friend that I went to elementary school with. And we reconnected after all those years. And she said to me, I still remember the astrology project you did in grade 6. And it inspired me to study astrology later in life. So I kind of go back that far. I can also say that I come from a background perhaps heavily steeped in religion. My family was Romanian. My family religion was Romanian Orthodox, and we went to church every Sunday. And as a child, I would sit there and stare up at the ceiling. The church was not really a church, but a cathedral, or more like a cathedral. And the sky was painted, or the ceiling was painted like the night sky, with these wispy clouds and iridescent stars. And as a child, of course, listening to them droning on and on and on. Of course, it was quite beautiful because there were Gregorian chants and there was incense and candles. There was all of that kind of mystical, magical stuff. But as a child, looking up at that ceiling and, of course, all the Byzantine paintings and so on, it really fed me, it fed that kind of mystical side that I have, I would say. So I was steeped in all of that, wondering about the stars and so on. I left home. As I said, I've had a pretty unusual life. I left home before I was 16, and I was a troubled youth, off on my own, out wandering. And that's when I started really turning seriously to astrology. And at that age, my progressed Pluto went direct in my chart. So that was a start point for me there. It was in my latter 30s when my Mars turned retrograde, and that's when I met Jeffrey Wolf Green.
Aha.
So
Interesting.
what
Yeah.
was it? So with Jeffrey's evolutionary astrology, I think I know the answer, but just for the audience sake who are not aware of your work or how you got into E8. So what was it about Jeffrey in terms of evolutionary astrology that made sense? Because I'm
Well,
sure it was right, this is it.
yeah, well, and that's a story too. So, starting when I had left home at the age of 16 and starting to study, I had this teensy little book, Ronald Davidson, maybe you know that, Sue, like a really little pocketbook trying to learn how to do the math.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, trying to do the math. And then when I was just first transplanted to Vancouver, where I live now, in my 20s, arrived on my birthday, and I was 20 years old. And I met a friend at the time who was studying a little bit of astrology, and she actually taught me the mathematics. Not an astrologer today, but I always had these people kind of show up in my life. So I was working, for a very long time, trying by myself, self-taught, and so on. And I explored a lot. And we have a bookstore here in Vancouver, which is still going today, Banyan Books, the very famous Banyan Books. And they had used books, and you could go there and sit and read for hours, right? So I have all kinds of books that you open it up and it's like $1.50 on this book and $3 on. And so I amassed quite a collection, and I've studied and studied. And I explored a batch of different things. I was exploring horary astrology and all kinds of things. But when I was in the bookstore, and this was kind of interesting, I would pick up the Pluto book. I picked it up a few times and went, oh yeah, put it back, right? Checked it out and put it back. And unbeknownst to me at the time, because I was a transplant here, I didn't know my way around, kind of the larger, greater Vancouver area. And Jeffrey had been actually here doing lectures, but I hadn't met him because my life was busy elsewhere, right? So he was kind of in and around, and I was over here doing my life, and he was over there, doing all the astrology and of things. So much later, I had a friend who said to me, oh, you don't know this guy, well, here's a tape, right? And I said, okay, well, fine, I'll take the tape. And I thought, well, I was on my way to some place, and I got in my car and I stuck in the tape, and I never went anywhere because the sound of his voice was immediately familiar to me. And we have a Venus opposition exactly there. And so the voice was kind of the first imprint there. And the lecture was so powerful and so potent, it just resonated with my soul. And that was it, right? That was it. And it was at some point later that I met him through doing, attending a conference here and there, right? So I had seen him. So my gravitational pull towards him was so strong, went like that, right? And it was at Norwalk, one of the times that I went to Norwalk, that Jeffrey announced that he was going to do a school. And I was sitting at the back of the room. And honestly, I felt like my soul just went like, and I went onto stage like I was so compelled. I was so compelled. And I just said, well, I can do it. I'd love to host you. And that's how we started working together, right? And he became kind of my greatest supporter to push me towards professional level. I was already, kind of working to do this, but I mean, he was really like instrumental in really giving me that support at that time. I had small children, and and the like all of that kind of financial, trying to survive and so forth. But I call him my greatest teacher, my mentor, my best friend. So that's how we came to work together.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's a story.
Yeah. Well, the school itself was an unbelievable experience for everyone involved there, and it was just a very, very amazing thing. At the very end of the school, um, we did a meditation, and in that meditation, Jeffrey had said that Yogananda had come into the room and blessed everyone's life, right? And it was profound. It was profound. It was really a profound experience, but nothing for me. Just back to my exploration in various astrological modalities. Nothing spoke to me as richly and as deeply and as profoundly as evolutionary astrology did and still does today. Right? It. Anyone who comes into this, anyone who has had a reading with an evolutionary astrologer, who has studied the material, knows the depth that it can provide in supporting the understanding of the soul, and how the soul has set up the life, where one has come from. It is such it's just such a phenomenal body of work. And the thing that always amazes me is how very complete the body of work is. It answers all the questions, right? All of them. It covers all of the possible questions that one might have, right, throughout life. There isn't any. It's a perfect system. I don't know whether that makes sense to say
Well,
that.
to me, it does.
Right?
It does. It
Do
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So yeah, and it is truly a gift. Jeffrey described himself, I think, at one point, he's described himself many different ways, but like a chalice pouring the cup, right?
Yeah.
So and for those of us who teach and who serve through evolutionary astrology, this is the spreading of all of that. It's passing on the baton, passing on the seed, sharing the cup, whatever expression you want to use there. It's profound.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the words that I read that Jeffrey used was that he's the errand boy.
Oh, he always
And
said that.
yeah, there's just so much humility in that, and humbleness, and like you said, service. And you know, I would say even for myself, we're continuing. I'm an errand girl. It's just a body of work, and it's like you said, even when it came into my life, a lot of systems, like, yes, I was searching for some answers, and things weren't making sense in my life, and it just made sense. It just made sense. And I never looked at astrology previously before, in terms of, I knew of astrology, but I wasn't like, I'm going to be an astrologer. I decided to become an astrologer because the body of work helped me in my life, and I was doing some coaching, etc. But it was like this was the missing jigsaw piece in my karma yoga, I would say. And just learning the material, just diving deep in. And I still do it to this day, as I'm sure you do, Rose, as well, Sue as well, in terms of, you're continuously learning. No one can ever say, oh, I've got it now. This is it. It will never be like that. And it's not meant to be like that, because it's the evolution of the soul. So we are evolving moment by moment. And it's that understanding. And then there's more magic to it. Because like Rose, like for me, You know, when I pick up, you know, a book that I've read many times, and I will I'll show you your book. Yeah, I can pick up and open this. I've read this many times, and I read another chapter. You get a different insight, different information comes through, and it's sort of like this. There's so much. I'm going to use the word magic in this form of astrology, but I'm talking about alchemy magic. So you get that understanding, and this is why even this channel EA Zoom, it's brought so much you know, collaboration, you know, a community. It's built that community of like-minded individuals and a tribe of family. And that's very key because, you know, we talk about difficult childhoods and, you know, experiences that we've had. We've not all had the perfect childhood, etc. But being able to come together with like-minded individuals is so healing. This is one of the reasons Sue and I wanted to start this Astro Coffee, was to build this community, to build these conversations, interactions, and to kind of show people you're not alone. And there is a way to understand your soul journey, and there's a purpose behind it.
Well, yeah, and you know, the evolutionary astrology speaks truth, right? You know, and that truth deepens and enriches. I call it alchemy. It's like the synchronizing of um, your understanding, you know, as you go through life and how that unfolds. You know, how there's always something to learn about yourself. There's always something, some insight with the astrology that, you know, I always say that once you go down the rabbit hole, you never you never come out again. You know, you're always going to be a student of this material because it is always going to deliver. How about you,
Yeah.
Sue, in terms of your draw to this?
Just reading the Pluto book and Patricia's book, because I was drawn to past life regression and did some DMP sessions with a therapist who was trained by Roger, and then I found Patricia's book, and that with together with Jeffrey's book, I was just I was all in.
Yeah, and of course that's Patricia Walsh and Roger Wilger and the Deep Memory Process, and Pat's book Heal the Past, you know, which is a brilliant complement to the astrology, right?
Yeah,
You know,
karmic complexes.
Like
karmic
complexions, yeah.
complexes. Yeah, karmic
Her
complexes.
website is Heal the Past.
Heal the
Yeah.
past. That's right. Yeah.
And so and while we're mentioning work, the book that Rav held up is called
Insights
Insights
into
into astrology.
yeah.
Yeah. And
and
it's a collection of essays by prominent EA astrologers. And it's, if no one's read this, you need to like literally buy it now. It's brilliant. Like it's such a great tool, and you just get so much insight. It is, like it said, insights into evolutionary astrology, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful read, and it's just, yeah, it's like every book in EA, and I'm gonna always be praising it. But every book that I've read in terms of Rose, your books, there's another one, Evolutionary Astrology, Essays in Evolutionary Astrology, I believe it's called. You've also got like a chapter in there that you've done with, again, with Deva and Kristen, etc. These books, I'm sure Sue will put the links for the books.
absolutely, yeah.
But there's such great resources, not just the EA Zoom channel, but the books that have been written, you know, alongside Jeffrey's original two books, of course. But just the insights that you gain for your own charts. You know, it's not even for individuals, it's not just for people wanting to be professional astrologers. Just in understanding your own journey, your own kind of karma that we've all come in with, and what we're here to do. And it's because there's a choice point. And this is what I say whenever I work with a client, you know, you have a choice. Yes, we have a past that's brought us to the present, but in order to move forward, we've got to take conscious decisions and make choices. And that's where the test comes in. That's where I think Saturn gets very strong in our charts. Where are we doing the work? And Rose, with your chart, I was chatting to Sue earlier. Now you've got that Pluto retrograde in the sixth house, right at that cusp. You know, like you said, it went direct when you're around, did you say 16?
16, yeah. Yeah.
16. So yeah, so then it would have shifted into the seventh house. And it's interesting because the sixth house for me, the Virgo archetype, that transitional archetype. So once it's moved into the seventh house, it's sort of like you've started relating to life differently. So the seventh house is relationships, but it's also relating to life and other people and the projections that one gets. So it's your chart's very fascinating in terms of even looking at the placement of the moon in Neptune in the eighth house. And I know because I've checked out your website and I know the work that you do. Because aside from astrology, you're also an expert, and I will, if the audience doesn't know, in clairvoyancy and tarot cards. I'm just very intrigued as to what drew you into that particular body of work.
Well, that's another thing that a capacity that I've had that has been with me always. And I find it a lovely balance, right? So the intuitive, my intuitive work was always there. And I kind of went back and forth between the two when I was younger, and I felt more confident because I have that sixth house and I have great insecurity, right? So I felt kind
Virgo.
of safer in astrology because it was technical and a science. But my intuition, my intuitive, my tarot cards, my clairvoyancy, and so on was always there. And what I found was is that somehow people knew that and kept asking me for my services. And so, I kept offering it. I feel very blessed to be able to kind of stand in both of these worlds. When I do my sessions, I either do astrology or I do my clairvoyant work. I don't combine them, although, of course, as we know, intuition plays a big part in terms of interpreting a chart. But I keep both of those quite separate. But my astrology informs my clairvoyant work and allows me to understand. I see a lot of the information comes in terms of symbolisms and mythology and all that kind of rich stuff. So it allows me to go quite deep with things. I call myself a clairvoyant. I have all the faculties. I see and I hear and so on. But the Neptune moon piece, I think I do mediumship as well too. Sometimes using that word, people get kind of some senses about things. So you talk to dead people.
Yeah.
And I can go anywhere with those faculties. I go wherever I'm called. So for me, that's a very rich part of who I am. So I love it. I love my work, right? I'm blessed. I never really knew what I was going to do in life. I'm an Aries, so life has been serendipitous. And whenever, when I was married, I was in art, and my husband and I had an art business, and we went from starving artists to kind of fame and fortune overnight, so to speak. So that was quite a big thing at that time. But everybody kept saying to me, "When are you getting to your astrology? When are you getting to your astrology?" So it was always just, who I always had been.
That's awesome. So that brings us to, what advice would you give to people who are wanting to become astrologers?
Oh, goodness, and as we know, astrology is just gaining a renaissance nowadays. I mean, it's really terrific at that level. I think it's also a bit confusing because of all the media, all of the AI that's out there. There's so much kind of general astrology, and I have to say, AI does a pretty sophisticated job of chart interpretation, which is a little scary, I think, but
Yeah.
so there's a lot to filter through. When I was at my level of wanting to learn and to grow, I think I was kind of it was the age of the Pluto in Leo teachers.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so there were the rock stars, the Jeffrey Wolf Greens of the world, the Liz Greens of the world, all of that. So, I mean, you had certain luminaries that you knew. Nowadays there are so many people to study with, right? And there are so many branches. So, of course, you are going to resonate with a particular teacher, and you're going to resonate with a particular study, right? A particular body of work. And let me just say, in terms of the various branches, it is whatever you resonate with. Personally, I have to laugh at myself, because when I go to the big conferences like UAC or so on, I have to say I go sit in on the financial astrologer lectures. It's good to get a well-rounded, understanding of that. And so I say whatever you gravitate towards. Hellenistic astrology, traditional astrology is the big going thing nowadays. And having been in the professional astrology realm for many years now, I've seen the waves. When Pluto was in Scorpio, it was psychological astrology, and it was Dane Rudhyar, and it was Liz Green. And when Pluto went into Sagittarius, Vedic astrology had its heyday. Okay. Pluto in Capricorn, Hellenistic astrology has, made its way. I think Pluto in Aquarius is one of the statements that I see a revival of evolutionary astrology. I do. And I think that when you start to investigate this, if you are called to this body of work, you'll know that it may fill, what you may find is that it'll fill a gap for you that you haven't found elsewhere.
Yeah, especially like you said, if you've gone down the other routes of astrology. I remember having an interest in astrology, just, general astrology, star signs. It was when I found out more about the moon sign, the south node of the moon, the north node of the moon, and the moon, being that bridge between the past and the future. Then it made more sense. But the only astrology I saw that did this particular perspective was EA, understanding the past to the present to the potential future. And like you've just said, I agree with you. I think Pluto in Aquarius, once it fully comes around, there will be more of an expansion of people wanting to understand their soul journey, because it's about, Aquarius liberating and deconditioning from the past, which is, what this transit of Pluto in Capricorn, when it goes back into Capricorn, will do for the next sort of 6 months. So it's like it may get a little bit more difficult, but it has to for you have to go through the dark for the light to shine through eventually. So it's I feel that's also coming up, over the next sort of few years. And yeah, I totally agree. I think that the expansion of astrology over the past few years, it's because people are realizing this is a natural science. It's not woohoo. It's, back in the day, it's been deemed as, you know, astronomy and astrology are brothers. And people are coming back to that awareness, and that knowledge is coming back into the forefront, I feel.
Well, what I found over the years too, in people that come seeking, regarding astrology, is that their questioning is deeper than it was before. They're coming to astrology, or coming to have a reading with me anyway, because they are because they have a sense and a feel that there is some information that the evolutionary astrology is going to unlock for them, you know. So they're asking deeper questions than ever. And this is what happens, you know, Jeffrey said this many times, is that who you will attract, you know, will be people that you will serve will be people that you have that information for, right? You know, as you go to the next level up, then, you know, you might be meeting with people along the way who are on that wavelength, right? You know, whatever wavelength you're on, that's what you're going to attract, right? And so you evolve, and the people who come seeking also evolve, right? But you know, the Pluto in Aquarius, which of course is going to be with us till 2044. You know, Aquarius is the archetype of enlightenment and awakening. You know, it is the archetype that we talk about acceleration of evolution. So it's the acceleration of your own evolution. And in terms of that awakening as well, too, we talk about Aquarius as being the individuated unconscious, right? And the Jungian principle of the individuated unconscious, and contained within Aquarius is all that long-term memory, you know, so that's all of your records, all of them. And wherever the transit of Pluto and Aquarius is going to be in your chart is going to be resourcing and tapping from that memory pool. And what I say again about, you know, how a person synchronizes with their chart, they come asking the questions at the right moments when the chart is stimulated to be learning, having that growth experience, whatever that might be, right? You know, so it is at that level. And, you know, I said this in a variety of other lectures as well, too. You know, Aquarius is multidimensional, it's multifaceted, you know, it's everything all at once, you know, it's all of that. And in terms of our evolution, you know, we're operating at these different different rates in terms of our personal evolution with that Pluto and Aquarius. So in the unlocking and the awakening of that cellular memory, which is what the Aquarius archetype will be, you know, the Aquarius archetype in evolutionary astrology, we relate it to trauma consciousness, right? That's one of those items here. There are more people walking around on the planet nowadays in trauma than ever before. I mean, you know, there's, you know, devastating things happening all over the planet, right? They're at all those different levels. But wherever you are in your evolution, you know, these transit, your soul is bringing you to a time is right moment, whatever that moment may be for you. And in terms of the unlocking, you know, it may be confronting something that's been lying in a frozen state for many, many lifetimes. And at this point, your soul is saying, okay, it might be safe to just turn the key a little bit, and maybe just to release a little bit of that, so that I can try to evolve that particular thing, to transmute it somehow. Or, you know, if you're a little further along, maybe you're going to turn that a little bit more. Or if you are, you know, at a certain level, maybe you're going to turn on the tap full blast, right? You know, so you can be at any one of those levels in terms of unlocking that frozen content from past lifetimes that have been maybe too scary, too you know, too traumatizing, too fracturing for you to face. And then you may be at a point where you are now ready, and you are now, you know, courageous enough to step forward for yourself. You know, so we've got all of that, and evolutionary astrology can be very supportive in wherever you may be on the wheel with your own creative process regarding the healing of that past, right? On the other hand, you know, Aquarius represents, again, your extraordinary past, your extraordinary memories, your extraordinary gifts, your extraordinary skill sets, you know, your special brand of genius. And it may be through these coming years that all of a sudden you're going to tap from that rich source. Oh, wow, I just picked up the pen and guess what? It just flew right out of me. Oh, you know, I picked up this and that, and I just somehow, I felt an instant rapport with this. I felt an instant, you know, duck to water here. You know, it may be that your time is right moment is gifting you with the opportunity to take whatever that special skill set is now and to use it and apply it, not only for your own personal growth and well-being, but also too, I think that we all need to show up and serve the collective, right? You know, so we do that in small ways and we do it in large ways as well too. I always say that the best way that you can serve the collective is by showing up for yourself, about making each moment and each day count, right? By showing up as best you can within whatever limited scope. We can't always know how we are affecting the matrix by this particular moment, by what we're doing right here now as the three of us together, right?
Yeah.
You have such a way with words, Rose. I'm always mesmerized with your monthly forecast with Kristen, guiding stars. That's it. I relish it, you know, whenever it comes out, that's, you know, I gotta listen. I get to listen to it first, actually.
She does. You know, Kristen and I have
Sue.
we've been doing that radio show since 2010.
Wow.
This is 14 years, really.
Wow, half a Saturn cycle.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I still listen. I listen to it every month too. Like literally, the minute it comes up on YouTube, I'm either doing a workout, it's on, and I agree, Sue. It's literally, it's like gold dust, right? Okay, so you know, you get your forecast for the whole month. You know, even though I am an astrologer, trust me, to be objective sometimes. And it's nice just to, you know, I still listen to it. I listened to it when I was studying, and I will continue to listen to it because it's brilliant. If no one's listened to it,
yes,
there's
and
tons
following
on the
that.
Yeah.
You're also, I mean, you're an incredible teacher. I mean, like I said, I always learn something from when you speak, you know, when I hear your lectures, and now you have a school. So you want to talk a little bit about that and how?
Yeah, well,
that?
in I think it was 2019, Laura Nalbandian, who runs the NORWAC conference, and Patricia Walsh, who we just mentioned a few moments ago, past life regression, and I set up the Soulwise School of Evolutionary Astrology. And we teach a in-depth course. We're just launching into the next, which starts in beginning of September. It's a 52-week course that takes you through the whole Pluto method. And this is something to note, you know, as well too, that I have to say about Jeffrey's work, is that Jeffrey provided a specific methodology for chart interpretation, which a lot of people don't know. Like, where do I start? Here's a chart. Where do I start? Do I start with the sun? Do I start with the ascendant? Do I look for a T-square? You know, where do I start? Evolutionary astrology has a step-by-step process. We look at Pluto, we look at the south node, we look at the ruler, and on we go. And so for anyone out there who is unfamiliar or just starting research on evolutionary astrology, that is another jewel of the entire body of work.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, Soulwise School of Evolutionary Astrology.com, you know, and come along with us. And additionally, of course, we have to talk about the Jeffrey Wolf Green Association of Evolutionary Astrologers, and Rob and I have been teaching with that. We started that 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, and we've been doing these monthly lectures and team teaching, which I think has been quite wonderful to do that, and it's good sharing. And we've done a lecture and a mentor class, and we had our first virtual conference last year, and we have the next one coming up October 6 to 8, I believe.
Yes.
Yes,
6 to 8,
and
yeah.
yeah, and Rob, can you repeat the website for those who?
Yes, it is. Sue will provide the link, but it's jwgaea.org. So Jeffrey Wolf Green, Association of Evolutionary Astrologers.org. And like you've just mentioned, there's a forum there for, for anybody wanting to join. If you've got questions to do with evolutionary astrology, if you just want a bit more insight, even the lectures that we've done over the past 2 years, you can actually purchase them individually if it's a particular subject you're interested in. Yeah, and for example, Rose and I this year did the sun and moon planetary pair, and we did a workshop, a mentorship class on that as well. And yeah, there's a lot of resource on that website as well as the original, I say original, but the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology. There's an old forum there. There's a lot of material, like honestly, a lot of material, and even an EA glossary that's been created from that material, which Linda, I know, compiled. And there's so much material that you can just dive into, and it's just so resourceful. So yeah, I'm sure we'll provide the links for you to find those particular sites.
Endless information to support you.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
100%.
That's why we keep learning.
Yeah, we do.
Because there's so much more to learn.
And
Oh,
I have to say, Rob, you mentioned this earlier, but that was another thing for me too with the evolutionary astrology was community, building community. It's a little different now because of COVID and we got online, and so we do more virtual than we do in person nowadays. But once I met my tribe, I had that sense that I was no longer alone, that I had people out there in the world who understood me, that I felt were, on the same page, and I felt so long as I had somebody out there, and I might not talk to everybody all the time, but they were out there someplace. It just gave me some kind of sense of belonging that that I was questing for my whole life.
that
Yeah,
was my
I agree.
first conference, was the last in-person EA conference. And when I met you, I met well, yeah, Patricia introduced me to everybody. And I got to sit at a table with you and Demetra. And I mean, I was just fangirling. I mean, I was just like, oh, wow, this is just, and I felt welcomed. That's where I was going with this, is I just felt like I belonged there. And wow, they invited me to sit at their table, and wow.
And and that's it too. And when we do the Soulwise School too, we do a lot of sharing and so on. In the mentorship class that Rav and I did, or any of the mentorship classes where you get to share, you get to get right in there into the nitty gritty right away. I mean, it's up to you how much you want to share online and with other people, but you can be real, and you can be brutally honest, and you can get the support from those around you. You can share in this very open, honest way, and other people, you don't get the at least it's not been my experience of judgment, but more compassion and understanding, and all the support you need. So yeah.
So I have one question. Rav might have other ones, but my last question is, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, first of all, I'm a workaholic and I almost never get away from the computer. My thing is I'm a forest girl. I live in the most beautiful city in the world. And I walk around the corner, I walk down the street, or I drive 5 minutes. Sometimes I bike ride to the most spectacular forests there are. And I go commune with the trees. I love to be in nature in that way. And outside of that, I have to say I have guilty pleasures. I love watching my Netflix.
I hear you, sister.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah. Sometimes it's just good to get away.
Exactly. I call it mindless TV. I can
Yeah.
just zone out and you know, yes.
Sometimes
Yeah,
we need that, Sue.
Yes.
binge watching.
Exactly. Yes. Mouth open. So
Well,
I guess I do have one other question. Is there anything else that you would like for people to know about you? That they might not already know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I'm
well,
I'm gonna be a grandma in 2 weeks.
There you go. Awesome.
I'm looking forward to my granddaughter arriving. So that's my next personal life journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have a question regarding a transit. I'm curious, as you know, to see how this transit's playing out in your life, even for anyone studying astrology, just to see how they play out. So that Pluto in Aquarius is moving through your 12th house, right? And I know it's going to go back and hit your Chiron, because I believe it goes back to 27. Am I correct? Goes back to
I think
27.
it just goes back to 29.
29.
Just to
Yeah.
29.
29?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Right,
sort of
so
it's sort of done with Chiron. But
Yay.
yeah. Chiron is something that I have very, very, very deep understanding of. I have a book half written. I started writing this book in 2000 or early 2000s. I haven't been able to finish it. I've got a volume of material written about it.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, I can't seem to get there. It's the unfinished business there. But Chiron is something that I understand deeply. I stand in two worlds, right? I have a very, very, very deep understanding of spirit, of universal energy, of source. I have a very deep understanding of what it means to show up. I have, I will tell you this. When I first met Jeffrey, one of our first conversations, I said to him, I said, I feel like this life. Now, this comes from, from anyway, like a mirror here and a mirror here. And, when you have two mirrors that are facing one another, you just see repetition, you see it to infinity. And that's how I described myself to him. I've got this mirror on one side, I can see all the way that way. And I've got this mirror on the other side, I can see all the way on the other way. Well, of course, I was describing my Neptune square the nodes, right?
Wow, yeah.
And Chiron is the tightest T square that I have in my chart to my sun and moon, right? So I have some past life recall, I have some sense about things. I know when I have these kinds of experiences, but I know myself, which is something I don't really celebrate, but I know myself to be a wounded healer. I have showed up, at a very thorough level. Let me put it that way. So that is a very strong piece for me. Yeah.
yeah, because I was gonna say, I feel that transit for you, Rose, is also gonna. I sat here earlier looking at that, and my intuitive sense kind of went, huh, channeling. I feel like there's gonna be, you're gonna end. Let's just say there's so much information gonna come from you. I do think that book's eventually gonna finish, and I feel like you're going to present to the world that there's not just this physical reality. that there's
Yeah,
more
you know,
and that we're
absolutely.
connected to more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, yeah, that's something I've been working on a whole lifetime. And this is a lifetime, I will tell you that I was born on Easter Sunday. And for me,
Oh,
this is a resurrection lifetime.
Oh,
And I have felt that very, very strongly. I have that
beautiful.
Saturn sitting in Scorpio and it's retrograde in the ninth house. And transiting Pluto is squaring that. My progressed Saturn right now is, because it's retrograde, is 2 degrees Scorpio. So Pluto is currently squaring my progressed Saturn, and it's going to be a batch of years before it reaches 6 Aquarius. So I've got a ways to go with unlocking that information, but I have spent a whole lifetime trying to make a breakthrough for myself. Right. So I'm still a work in progress.
yay.
And Rose, you're showing everybody, is what we said earlier, every single day we're working towards evolving. That evolution doesn't stop and it's not meant to stop. We're meant to
Not meant to
continuously
stop.
grow and evolve. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Before we do go, I wanted to ask Rose one question because I love my books. And I know Rose
Okay, I'm going to stop
has
the
had a
share so
bookshop
we
as
can.
well. Yeah. So my question was, what books would you recommend to people apart from astrology books? What books has changed your life? Has there been any particular book that's changed your
Oh
life?
gosh, well, you know, there are too many of them to mention, I think, you know, but I'll tell you what I'm reading now. I'm reading the work of Gabor Mate right now. I used his chart in a lecture that I did recently on retrograde planets for Norwalk, actually. And Gabor Mate, who is all over the internet now, right? You know, I've got Myth of Normals, what I'm reading right at the moment. But this is what I said in the lecture that I did. This guy, who is a local for me, I mean, he's from Vancouver as well, too,
Nice.
has been practicing evolutionary astrology without knowing a thing about astrology at all, right? You know, I mean, he talks about the conditioning patterns, you know, and all of that, and it's fascinating. It's just fascinating material. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. I think
Nice.
I'm quite impressed by his work.
Me
Yeah,
too. I've read his The Bodies When the Body Says No.
Body says no.
And
yeah.
yeah, brilliant book. But if no one's read it, it's a great book. And I've actually got right under my table The Myth of Normal, which I need to start, but it's just literally under this table. But yeah, oh, that's amazing. I think books are such a great. Oh, I'm a bookworm. I'm a Virgo. Of course, I'm going to be a bookworm.
I said when
Oh,
I first started astrology that I wanted to have a complete library and have every astrology book ever printed, but in today's reality, that's impossible.
Well, and you know, you were talking about sitting in a bookstore, you know, back when you were learning astrology. That's all we had. We didn't have the internet, you know.
That's right.
We had to use bookstores to find old books to learn astrology. Ooh.
And I just
but there's
treat each
nothing
one of
like
them
a
as
good
sacred.
book. Yeah,
Nothing like a good book.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, Rose, thank you for being our inaugural interview. It has been so much fun, and I learned some stuff about you that I didn't know previously, and
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been amazing. Like Sue just said, just getting to know one another and just understanding this work, this sacred body of work, and yeah, just showing people that we're in it together. There is a community, and yeah, we'll be back. I don't know if we're doing this couple of weeks or monthly, but we will be back soon with another interview. But thank you for this one, Rose, for starting us off.
Oh, and I want to thank both of you for your hearts and your dedication to evolutionary astrology and your presence in my life as well too. Thank you to both of you.
Likewise. Yeah.
back
Thank
at you.
you. Thank you for listening, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.